Good evening. Good evening. It's Tuesday, and we're back. All right, Patrick here. 8 questions with. The cheetah is floating around here somewhere. He might be sleeping. I gave him some wet cat food, and that generally puts him asleep for a little while. Uh, Glad you are here with us tonight. We are going to be talking with screenwriter and director. I think he's going to get into directing. It looks like, but we're here to talk about with screenwriter Spyder Dobrofsky, and he is a rising star, no doubt about that. And yeah, this is a gentleman that I caught ever so briefly. He was doing an interview on Mike's channel on American Werewolf in London, in New Jersey, and I caught just like maybe like a minute of it, and it's just like I do with somebody like this. Is if I see somebody I like to talk to, I will instantly leave their current interview because I don't want that interview to spoil something I want to ask. I don't want my questions to be influenced. So I did leave a little early, and I got a hold of Spider, and I asked him if he'd be willing to come chat with us, and he said graciously he said yes. Um, I'm really impressed by him. He's really, he's a young man. Uh, he's only 30. He's got the whole world ahead of him. He's got screenplays already written and sold. He's got movies being made and shown on major streaming services. His new movie is called Teardrop, which is now playing on Tubi, and I've caught about three-quarters of it. Um, it's hard with my schedule. It's hard to actually sit down and catch anything all the way through. But what I saw, I really, really liked. It's very, it's very refreshing. A take on the haunted ghost town uh, story. That's not an easy thing to write and to write well. I've seen a few of those movies, and yeah, it's tough. So to watch one and see the freshness of the story and good casting too. I gotta give it up for the good casting and the directing here. I would be remiss if I didn't. I really like the young cast. It was very well done. Um, if you like Trick or Treat, you'll like this movie too. You'll like this movie. You'll see a lot. You'll see something in the movie that's very charming in a sense. And if you like Trick or Treat, you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. Uh, so he'll be here with us in about 10 minutes or so. I want to say thank you for last night. I had a tremendously fun time with Jim Martin from Now It's Dark and our special co-pilot Hobbs Horror. That was a lot of fun last night, and so we're going to keep the ball rolling. Um, so I'll let you know what's coming up the rest of the month because that's what we do, right? We do that. So tomorrow on the 21st, Wednesday, the 21st of September, we will be talking with our good friend Fluff from All That Fluff and Stuff. We'll be talking to her from Australia. Uh, uh, and That'll be a lot of fun. That'll be at 8 o'clock here tomorrow. Thursday, we have a double header here. We have a double header. We have at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. We have actress, music producer, musician, author, published author, by the way. Max Wassa will be here with us at 6 p.m. And then at 9 p.m., all the way from New Zealand, we will be welcoming in Tristan Risk. She is a puppeteer. She's an actress. She's a filmmaker. She's currently making a film called Cat Lover, which I got to talk about that any chance I get because that's that kind of movie. Some of you might remember her from American Mary, and she's done a lot in her career, and she's going to be here talking to us on the 22nd at 9 p.m. I can't wait to meet her. This is a grail guest for me, someone who I've really been hoping to have a chance to chat with. So I'm pretty excited about that, and can't wait till she gets here. and I hope you guys all will come out and check, come on in and hang out with us as we chat. All right. I also want to say last Sunday we did John Wick, and holy crow, you guys like that? Obviously, it's gotten almost 250 views. I can't say enough. Thank you for that. We will be back looking at John Wick Chapter 2 on the 25th of September, and then Chapter 3 on October 2nd. October 2nd, we will be joined by special guest Betty J. Gathers will be with me again, and we'll also be joined by the master of the Twilight Zone, Anthony, from Dreamland Fever Theater, Dreamland Theater, otherwise also a member of the Cinema Squad. He'll be here with us to talk a little bit of John Wick 3. Hopefully he'll come in and talk to us a little about John Wick 2 as well, but we'll see. So going back to Spyder, because at least we should. So Spyder he has written everything. He's a lot of writers. I think I could be wrong here, but I think when they start writing, they write what they know. So if they're mostly into horror movies, that's what they'll write. They'll write horror movies. If they're into comedy, they'll stay in the comedy. They'll stay where they're comfortable at, and like, okay, I feel good writing about horror movies because I know it. And with Spyder, though, it's different. It's the fact that he's a screenwriter and he can write about anything. He can write about horror movies, and like in Teardrop. He also has a movie that's streaming on Peacock, a major streamer, Peacock, The Housewives of the North Pole, which is a Christmas movie. So obviously, and he's also written another Christmas movie called One Christmas Wish. He's done a lot of fun short movies as well. We'll talk to him about that. So I can't wait to see where this goes. Hey Andre, hey Tatum. Glad you guys are here. We will be talking to screenwriter, director Spyder. I am doing good. Spyder Dobrofsky. I hope I'm not killing that name too badly. Hi Andre, how are you? Looks like we called that fight, man. You and I. We said that Canelo would win in the decision, and that's exactly what he did. Yeah. How about that? We're boxing experts. Hopefully you two are doing well. If you can, if there's any way possible to share us out, that'd be awesome. Oh, good. Yeah, I got mods. I got plenty of mods, Tatum. I don't want to give out too many. They advise us not to do that. So I got a core group, but I will keep you on the list of people that if I need a mod, I will definitely reach out to you and talk to you. But right now I keep it a short list. I actually had a mod that ended up messing up my channel, and they were banning people that I didn't know were being banned until I noticed that they weren't. Yeah. Are you going live in an hour? Okay. Thanks for understanding. Yeah. So you're going live too, huh? Well, hang out here for the hour first, if you can, if you want to, and then as soon as we get done here, I'll see if I can come over and say hello, for sure. Okay, so Spyder is a versatile writer. He definitely can cover all genres, which is really, it's not as like I said, it's not as easy as it seems. What's really cool about Teardrop too, yeah, see, that's what happens. They say don't do, they say, a lot of people, they instantly make people moderators when they go in their chats. Yeah, but you can't do that. You got to be real smart about that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's never easy. It seems like a lot of people are going through breakups right now. Well, just stay busy for sure. I mean, what you're doing, going live in an hour, that's a good thing. Yeah, I was really pleased with that fight. I gotta give credit to GG Triple G though. You know, he did come back. You know, if that would have been a 15 round fight, we might be talking differently instead of a 12 rounder. You missed us. Well, we missed you too. I haven't seen you around on any of the streams, so I didn't know what was going on. But now I know. I'm sorry about that. Uh, yeah, we've been here cranking them out. Yeah, I think so too, Andre. I sort of missed the 15 rounds. I do. I sort of missed that. They call them the championship rounds. Rounds after rounds 13 through 15 were called the championship rounds because that's where a lot of that's where you found out if you had hard or not, your conditioning. But a lot of fighters were tired and they were getting beat, and because they were getting tired, they couldn't really defend themselves that well, and so there was a lot more injuries after 15 round fights. So that's why they knocked him down to 12. But if they had been 15 rounds, I think Triple G might have got him. But you can't take anything away from Canelo. He did what he had to do. He won, and he won decisively. You know. Oh, drama. Oh, yeah. Drama's around too sometimes. Yeah, I know. I see Gory's. Hopefully she's on this Sunday. She's been off. She was off the last 2 Sundays because she went to a convention, and I don't know why she was gone last Sunday, but I think she's supposed to be back. I think she's supposed to be back this Sunday for her battle royal. So yeah, man, boxing has had a real renaissance. What is going on? Okay. Ooh, I was gonna say what happened to my all right. Here he is.
There we
Spyder.
go. Awesome. How you doing, man?
Good, good, good. Glad you are here. Glad you are here.
Good. I made it. What are we on here? StreamYard. I've never seen that one before.
I think, yeah, I thought you. I think you did it with American Werewolf in New Jersey.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You know, that's what I thought I recognized the name StreamYard, but I was trying to figure out why I knew that.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do a pre-show because I knew you had already did a StreamYard from Mike's channel.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So you guys have and it just streams right onto YouTube after, huh?
Exactly.
That's so cool.
So that after we get done talking here, I'll upload it, and then I'll upload it, and then it'll go on my channel, and then people can watch it and replay it and share it and everything else.
Perfect.
So
where are you at, my friend?
I'm in southeastern Michigan.
Michigan, right on.
Yeah. So I'm about 20 miles. I'm about 20 miles from Ann Arbor.
Right on. Yeah, I've only been to the lake over there a couple times. I got some family over there in the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you're in Los Angeles now, though.
LA, yeah, yep. Los Angeles.
Man.
Born and raised. I love it down here. It's hard to leave.
Yeah. I saw you post pictures of surfing.
Yeah. It's I mean, that's the thing, you know, we got the beach and the movie industry, and it's good enough for me, at least for now.
We already got some folks in the chat that are saying hello to you. Our good friend Andre is here saying hello. A fellow filmmaker. My friend Gizmo. I just call him Gizmo. I know it's not his name. But Gizmo's here. But he's headed off to bed. He's over in Denmark. I think Denmark or Norway.
Denmark. Oh man.
Yeah. So he's about he's 6 hours ahead of us. So he's headed to bed.
Oh, he
And
said.
then yep. And then our friend Tatum is here saying hello. And yeah. I have to say the first thing that my first impression is especially in Hollywood being such a dog eat dog world at times, is that the fact that you are extremely positive. You're looking out. It seems like you're looking out for everybody all at once. And to me, I mean, I've met a lot of nice people. I just really have.
Yeah.
And I can't say that, but watching you, encourage everybody at the level that you're doing it, it's really refreshing to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is, what you say is true. It is a dog eat dog town, and I just never cared about any of the Hollywood stuff, and the events, the red carpet, all that stuff. It had never interested me, and when you get down to it, it's about storytelling and artists. There's not this competition that I think a lot of artists create within themselves because of the Hollywood part of the breaking in. There's only this many writers, and I need to get signed at this agency, and all these things that make people worried and anxious and jealous and all these emotions that at the end of the day, we all love movies or stories, and that's what we're really trying to do. And there's always room for new stories. So, that's what was my thing, was just like try to get rid of this stigma of writers trying to oh, this person's taking my slot, my opportunity, instead of being like, hey, become a great writer, write great stories. It's hard for everyone. There's nobody who has it easier than other people, because at the end of the day, it's you and the page. And everyone, it's like most of your life as a writer is spent sitting in front of a computer at a Starbucks trying to figure out if this character should go down this plot line or if you should kill them off and have someone else. And that's what it is. It's not really about the industry. That's really not much of it. It's, you get one call, you sell a script. It's happened to me a couple of times, and I get a call, I celebrate, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from anyone for 9 months. They make the movie. I had my movies made in the pandemic, so I didn't even get to go to a premiere. And that's it. It's like most of my life is spent writing. So I just try to encourage people to focus on the craft, the page. If you want to be a filmmaker, an actor, a musician, just like do your thing and, stay positive, throw your darts, and find a way to change the game with a great story. That's what it's all about. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I was mentioning beforehand, before you got here, and I was looking at your credits, when I was doing my research and whatnot. And what really struck me as really cool, especially for someone, so young, is the fact that you can write anything. A lot of writers that come in to this game and they sit down and they like, okay, I'm a horror guy, so they'll write horror. I'm a Hallmark Channel guy, so they'll just write Hallmark movies. You, on the other hand, you're not afraid to do anything. You're like, you got Christmas movies coming out, you got stories coming out, you got horror movies coming out. I
started in comedy too. That was the first script I wrote, the spec script called Mouth to Mouth. It's still, been trying to get wheels on it. Tobin Bell was attached at one point, but I started in comedy and at 21, and I had no interest in anything else. And then all of a sudden I was trying horror, and then I was writing big budget sci-fi, and then the holiday stuff came into my lap and from a pitch meeting. And it's just been, at least for me, it would be so boring to have to write one genre my whole life. How much could I possibly say about one genre? I mean? Like, I don't sit around watching one genre of movies all day. I like watching all sorts of things. And I think it keeps the challenge exciting and fun and fresh. And I like waking up every day and being excited about what I do, because like I always tell people, some years are great and you're making money, and others it's a cold winter. And so if it's a cold winter, I at least better be loving what I'm doing when it comes down to the labor of writing every day. If I'm having to write something I don't really care about to sell it, it's like, shit, man, I'd burn out so fast.
Yeah, though, but writing different stories and different characters like that, I can see how that just absolutely keeps you fresh.
Oh,
Because every time you sit down in front of the typewriter or the keyboard,
hmm
it's a different adventure. It's like where that saying, where am I going to go today? You
yeah,
know, not
yeah.
you're not only is your characters, where are my characters going, but you yourself,
Your style.
where am I going today? You
And
know,
Patrick, you nailed upon it too. The really fresh thing about writing different genres is it's not just the characters. It's actually that each genre has its own voice for you as a writer. So every script that I ever write, my style changes to kind of fit whatever the tale is ultimately about. So if it's a comedy, there's usually a lighter descriptions are very slim and fast, and they're more oriented around playing on a joke or those kind of things. If it's a horror, I really have a lot of description that goes into the atmosphere or setting that comes to like the creepiness or the ominous of it. And then science fiction, it's heavy on the world building and trying to find a creative way to put in the exposition about how the world ended up, with Terminators, with John Connor or whatever. It's like, but that part of it is like the writer actually like, oh, I got a chance to bring my audience or my reader into this story. And like with a Christmas movie, it's very actually kind of challenging, but you have to find a way to bring people into that like holiday feel, or actually, if you don't put enough holiday and enough warmth into the script, who wants to read a holiday movie and watch a holiday movie that makes you feel bad at the end?
right. I was actually going to say that would probably have been the easiest thing to
They're hard. I thought so too. I really did. I remember when I first got my first job writing one, and I was like, "This is going to be cake." And I was sitting there, I was like, "This is not easy to do." You have some a little bit more guidelines. You can't cross into very mature humor, mature scenarios, really mature relationships. They just don't play very well in holiday films. People don't want really psychologically complex characters in a Christmas movie. You don't want to see somebody grappling with their sanity, around the holiday time.
oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
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 uh,
like
yeah, should I go ahead and meet for the family, and then maybe
yeah.
like we just saw, me and my we have another show on Sunday,
Oh,
and
cool.
with the bat, and we just got done looking at Adam Marcus's Secret Santa,
Mm,
which is a Christmas movie,
yep.
but it's a wildly wickedly funny Christmas movie.
Yep.
But it's gory as hell too, though. So you're right. Most people, they just want to have fun for Christmas. They just want,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the type of movie you wrote,
Yes, and that's I feel with your what you're doing, you need to know what audience and what genre you're delivering in, and I definitely have an idea. I want to do a horror Christmas movie one day. I have an idea for it because I just think that they can be done. There's like a movie, it's like Krampus or whatever. Like it can be done, but I also think it's very hard to figure out how to ride that line because you don't want to get people coming into a horror Christmas movie for the Christmas stuff, but you also don't want the horror audience to be like, oh, I'm nauseated by this holiday stuff too. So it's not easy. Genre blending is very difficult.
Yeah, Christmas movie. Oh my gosh, it's so weird. That whole world is just really strange.
Bizarre.
We got a comment here. Our good friend Hobbs is sitting here saying, well, first our friend Gizmo mentions that you and him have the same birthday,
April.
uh, so April 28th.
Oh,
So
dude, we don't meet a lot of people with that birthday. I think Saddam Hussein has that birthday too. So we're in bad company.
well, he's not celebrating anytime soon. Uh, See, our friend Hobbs is saying, he says he would like to see a Halloween Christmas mashup motion picture feature. We need more of those. In fact, I'm not sure that I've ever seen one.
Halloween, Christmas, yeah, just like a holiday just cluster of all holiday movies into one.
Yeah, like Halloween and Christmas, the time frame between the two dates somehow got removed from time. So, you celebrate Halloween on a Saturday, on Sunday it's Christmas.
It's so funny that he brings it up because the industry, at least in my experience, has a very much of a fascination with the holidays, about releasing movies and trying to target their release based on the genres. So they always try to target horror movie releases around Halloween. They try holiday movies need to air this, which means they actually need to shoot. Like, it's hard to sell a holiday movie in summer because they won't be able to get it done in time for that holiday. So it's everything is so strange. So they very much separate the holidays out because each holiday is like their own chance to release movies and get an audience. I mean, it's all so weird. It's, there's a very big business part to the whole movie thing that I still myself am very naive to, and I try not to pay much attention to, really.
Well, I know like the because they have two different channels. I know Lifetime does Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Lifetime does it. GAC is new, which is basically formerly staffed by Hallmark people. And then you have Hallmark, and it's like, it's funny as hell. So you see these writers or actors or anything. They're all saying, "I'm about ready to go shoot a Christmas scene," and you look at it, and it's like, it's June, it's May, and it's like, I'm gonna get, and it's like, holy shit.
I mean, it's bizarre, and it took over, and I myself never imagined that I was going to do any holiday movies at all. It's just not something that I ever thought about, and I've also been lucky that the two movies I've done were very kind of strangely not in brand. Like, my first Christmas movie was a true story about this girl who found a real life story, found a family off Craigslist for the holidays. She was an orphan and grew up in the orphanage and foster care. And so this movie I wrote, which again, we had to make, a lot of the Christmas tropes and everything, but there was a lot of like heavy duty drama, and she had a very rough childhood. And so I did this thing for Up. And so my first movie was like this Christmas super intense drama that was mixed in with like sometimes Hallmark scenes and Hallmark endings and stuff. But there was like a chance for me to really write like this really heavy scene with her and her father. And, he's fixing his truck. I mean, there's just, I've gotten a chance to work on things that weren't conventionally Christmas movie. And if I, I don't think that I could have lasted writing just the way a lot of the Hallmark films are. They're very hard to, for me to bring something to those films as a writer, because, look, I just turned 30 years old. I don't have too much to say about, being a middle-aged woman dealing with a new divorce and moving back home and finding the meaning of Christmas. It's just, it's pretty far out of my wheelhouse. So, I've been lucky that I've kind of managed into stories that had a little bit of a different pulse than a lot of the, a lot of what Hallmark's movies are. It's a kind of, pretty typical plot line that plays out in different, fresh ways. But so
yeah, they do have a formula. A lot has to do with who they cast, because that really is probably almost more important than the story itself. The story itself is just like, it's great when it can be done right. Like, my favorite Hallmark movie that they've done was they took an adaptation of a John Grisham movie called The Christmas Train, and they actually made that into a really, really nice movie. It was, it had some heaviness, little drama, but a lot of fun.
What was that one called?
Huh?
What was that one called?
The Christmas Train.
Was Danny Glover in it?
Yes.
My parents wrote that one.
Did they?
I was on set I got to go to set and see some of that film.
You know what?
I didn't even realize that was John. It's funny, I wasn't as big into books at the time, and now I'm like, I listen to John Grisham I'm crazy about him. So I would have never guessed that was based on. I remember my folks were actually telling me at the time that it was based on this book, but I didn't know that it was John Grisham because
it's a small world, ain't it?
He was the legal thriller guy, So why would I ever imagine that he had something that was adapted into a Christmas movie? I gotta tell my folks that, man. They're gonna get.
I'm now thinking about. I think it was. I get them sort of confused. They both write legal thrillers. I think it's David Balducci. I'm thinking.
Balducci. Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay, that's what. Yeah, he also has that like very lucratively different career where all of a sudden you're like, they're making it into a Hallmark film. But that's where Hallmark, I feel they shell out a little more money on the budgets. They make them a little bit more. They add a little bit of extra, bells and whistles that kind of, makes the whole experience. It's almost like what they used to do with Hall of Fame, where they were like, on certain projects, we're going to elevate. We're going to give a little bit of bigger cast. Dermot Mulroney was in Christmas Train. That's who it was.
Yeah, Dermot Mulroney,
Like,
Danny Glover, and Ashley, Kimberly Paisley Williams.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh man.
What's really funny too, though, Spyder, is that man. I mean, you were on screens, you were on set, so you saw this too. But you tell me, did Danny Glover kick ass or what in that movie?
I just couldn't believe when because I got to meet some of the people on set and stuff. It's just like, getting a great cast in your film of people who you've watched in films and, actually grown up watching is just always such a treat, So it's just that I feel that's part of what us writers want is a chance for actors that we admire to read some of our dialogue, even if, it's not the biggest roles. And yeah, but Danny Glover was great in that. And I'm a big Dermot Mulroney fan myself. So,
yeah.
That's just such a funny small world. I'm gonna make sure I tell them because
tell them I watch it at least 3 times.
Yeah. That was one of the ones I know my folks were very, very excited about. Because there's just certain projects that people as writers are very excited to do, and it was a cool production and with the train and the way they set up this thing in Canada was pretty wild. I remember walking around set and I was like, this is like serious production. It was pretty.
They take their stories very seriously up there.
Yeah, they do. Gosh. Oh, and the director of that one, Ron Oliver, is who directed the Housewives movie that I did. So
yeah, I saw that.
It's a small world of people too, who again, not so easy to direct some of these films. You got to do it on 28, 24 to 30 days. There's lots of moving parts. They have to hit this production standard. The lighting has to, it's movie making. And I've definitely learned a lot just from kind of, doing a couple of them and just kind of, I always try to get them to send me dailies because I like to see how the film was looking in rough cuts and, it helps.
Why am I not surprised when you said that your parents wrote that? Why am I not surprised? Because that would have been one of the questions. Is like, it sounded like that you did come from Hollywood, like you grew up and you're very comfortable there. And screenwriting was not your first call to fame. You as a teenager, you made a website.
Car website. I never, it's funny you say I had no interest in anything movie business. My parents were writing through as I grew up, but they stayed home and they wrote. And they were, for most of my childhood, especially from like middle school all the way through high school, they were broke. They couldn't catch a break. They had a run in the 90s and then just nothing. And then Hallmark came around for them after like a huge dry spell. And they started getting their career a second wind, And my dad was like 60 at the time or whatever. It's like, you never know. You know what I mean? Like I had left the house and was in college when they started getting work again. And so, but I grew up watching them write and watching them not get work. And I was like, I never want to do that. Like, it was not something that I had any interest. I liked making films and videos and, doing things like that. But I didn't really consider writing even a possibility as a career. I was considering going into finance before being a writer, which I don't even know how that was crossed my mind. But at the time I had, I grew up around them writing and I was like, there looks to be nothing more miserable than being home behind your computer all day, working on stories and getting turned down by Hollywood,
Yeah. That could be very discouraging. And, if, in the right situation, it could be very destructive too, but they believed in themselves enough that they just, put the bit in their mouth and kept writing, like you said over and over and over, now I know a lot where you got your,
yep.
I can understand where you got a lot of your drive from, you got from your parents because
they were great. They taught me a lot about writing and honestly, the biggest lessons they taught me were just like, hey, like you want to do this, like be in it for the 10 years, the 15 years, I remember I was just getting started, and I got off to a good start because I was 21. I got signed by an agent. Like, I got a bunch of meetings, and I was like, I'm going to sell so fast. It's going to be easy. And my mom was like, expect nothing for 10 years. And I'm like, well, that was your scenario. Like, my scenario is different. Like, I'm already here. And like, nothing really happened for me on a grand scale until 10 years later, really, like, or 9 years later. So, it's one of those things where if you can swallow the pill that it's a lifestyle and it's a long-term pursuit where you constantly go up and down in terms of getting work, which is why the optimism is so important. Because what do you do when you're writing the same level of quality stuff and no one's answering their phone? Well, are you going to curse the world, or are you going to put a smile on and say, hey, got to write another one, got to keep my chin up and going? And that's what I sometimes do. So that's what I do. And that's what I try to tell others to do. It's just like, hey, like, we all wanted nothing but an easy road. But, if we don't get that, like, what can we do to, stay motivated and inspired and wake up with a smile and, without swamping.
I mean, you must have observed your parents when when you're growing up. You must have observed them. I mean,
Yeah.
how were they? How were they? How do they treat it, and how do they treat you and each other? Was it just with a dogged determination? Were there ever cracks where maybe somebody got a little bit snappish? Was there anything like that, or
No.
yeah?
I mean, we never had that. And just truthfully, I had no interest in, I honestly, it sounds so weird, but I didn't even know that movies were written by writers until I was in college. Like, I know it sounds weird, but like, I knew that they were writing movies, but I didn't conceive of writing as a craft, like that it was part of a storytelling filmmaking. What they did was so alien to me. I loved watching movies, but I never had read a screenplay before. I was uninterested in it That's why I was saying, like, I didn't really start writing. I didn't do creative writing in school. I didn't like doing any of those things. It was just not something I had any interest in until I was kind of forced to in a college class. And then I was like, whoa, this is fun. And I'm actually pretty naturally good at this. And I got, I had a professor who was like a guest lecturer, and it was this woman at Santa Barbara who came for one quarter, and she created the show Cheers, Sherry Steinkelner, and forced me by the class that I had to write a screenplay and learn the format. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden I got the bug, and then I was like writing every day, and just the floodgates open. But for the majority of my life,
Do you remember the first time you ever walked to your parents and you sat there and you asked them their first question?
Yeah.
Here you are coming from college, you're going like,
yeah,
Mom and Dad, I was thinking, I was doing a little bit of writing, and I'm sure your parents were sitting there going like, yeah, wasn't this our son was telling us he had no interest, and yet he's got that gleam in his eye.
Yeah. Well, I sent them the pages, and my parents were like stoked, and they like had ideas, and they loved it. And I think that, we really bonded over it too, because it was just something it sounds so strange now because writing is such a big part of my life. And I've spent so much time talking to my parents about screenplays and writing, and we've worked on horror scripts together and other projects, but I really had no interest in it for, the first 20 years of my life. It didn't even cross my mind.
What kind of movies did you watch, though? I mean, you must have been a film fan, obviously,
I was
right?
a huge film fan. Usual Suspects, my favorite film. Seven. I loved thrillers with giant plot twists. Fight Club. And I was really big into sci-fi. Interstellar. I liked movies like Event Horizon and Weird. Just that was the kind of stuff that I watched. I looked for movies that were genre films that had kind of bonkers plot twists, where like the whole grid would I would constantly look up movies with the craziest plot twists ever. That was like my biggest Google search, and then I would make sure that I didn't read what the plot twist was, and I would just watch lists of those films. But I like Primal Fear is one of my favorite films. I guess I'm a big fan of the kind of darker thrillers, darker science fiction. I don't like the other end of the genre and a lot of stuff. I'm not big on like Spaceballs, or like a lot of my friends love that film. Like that's just not something that I liked. Like I like Starship Troopers, not Spaceballs. Like I liked and then I liked American Pie type comedies and things like that. But I was an avid movie watcher. I watched every film possible. That was never my thing. I just didn't really think about filmmaking as a career or a craft. I just liked watching movies.
Right. I think a lot of people actually. I don't think you're alone when it comes down to watching a film and then not really realizing that it's writers. A lot of times, because the first thing you always hear about a film more than anything else, you always hear it's the director.
Director and the performances. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh, well, it's like,
director comes first, the cast comes second. You know,
it did there you go. Have you nailed it? Like that was my thing. It's like I knew that there was a screenplay, but I just honestly didn't really know what the screenwriter was doing, because it was like, well, the director is the actor is playing the part and the director is making the vision. So, and then it's like, oh, everything that happens in terms of the story, how it unfolds, like the writer has crafted that. But again, that's what I love so much. But again, now I meet a lot of people and they're like, well, what do you do? Like, what does a writer really do? And I'm like, wow, I remember when I just watched movies and was blind to the screenplay. You just didn't think about it as a script.
right.
Now I see it that way when I'm watching. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you see it like, do you watch it? Can you watch a movie now as a fan, or do you sort of watch it with like, one eye, like how would I written that scene, or or how did they write that scene, or what would I have done differently, or or what would I have done, did you like it? Did they, did the performance match the writing? Did the, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes it could be a great script, and then the performances sink it, and that's really frustrating.
That must be the most frustrating thing of all. To answer your question, yeah, I do. I definitely do that. But when a film is really exceptional, I usually get swept away. And it's not that I'm ever unconscious. It's that I actually have an even better watch when I'm like, oh, God, that was a great writing. Like my mind is like, and it's not the cliche. Like I don't, what gets me as a writer isn't when someone has a great monologue. It's when they pay something off as a writer. That's to me what great writing is a great payoff. So it's when something happens that was set up and it pays off that way. And that's where my brain is just like, oh, that was genius. Like what a great idea as the writer to take the plot that way. And I think I always watch with a little bit of that in my mind of just like how genius was that to, how did they think of that? And that's what I kind of, I don't think I'll ever be able to erase that from watching, but
Yeah, I mean, now here's an unusual question for you,
Mhm.
and I bet you've done this too. It just came to me, and I bet you've done this. I bet you've taken a movie that you watched, and I bet you've taken it and you went back in your room, and I bet you rewrote it.
Never. No, but I have watched movies with the screenplay in my lap. I've done that.
You never taken a movie like, maybe like, oh my gosh, I just want to, let me go ahead and see if I can rewrite this son of a bitch, make it more, palatable, make it see if I can make it work better.
I'd probably go down the route more of like seeing. I'll see. So I usually have my like notepad. I'll watch a movie, and I'll like pause it and write down, and where I'm like, they had the best plot going ever, and they just blew it, and now I'm gonna take what they failed to do and put it into my story. So I'll do things like that. But I would just to go and rewrite their script. I just don't like even wasting my time, because I just do so much writing that I'm like all about trying to at least get something original out of it,
Uh,
but there's a lot of people like doing fan fiction and that kind of writing too, like writing within the universe that someone's already created on spec.
right? Yeah, guys, I have not. I've seen some fanfics.
Yeah.
Of course, then you got the writers who kept franchises alive through their stories.
Yeah.
Like Star Trek and Star Wars, that would not even be here today if it wasn't for writers who kept on writing novels about them. I mean, without that, they would be dead.
Pretty
They would
crazy.
they would be dead. We got a couple of comments here I want to share with you. Um, our friend Hobbs is sitting there saying, "Do you prefer theater-trained actors and actresses for your motion pictures? For your motion pictures?" So, yeah, talk to us about your screenwriter's relationship with both a casting director and a director.
Sure. Screenwriter's relationship with a casting director is nothing, zero. But a director, you at least in my experience, when I'm working on the script and after it's bought and the director comes on board, there's at least a solid exchange of ideas on what they want and how to improve the script. So that's the person who us as a writer will speak to. A casting director wouldn't, they don't usually like writers involved in the process of production period. So the director is one of the few people you get to talk to because they're part of pre-production and they're part of getting the script ready. But once they've gotten the script to a place that it's production ready, your role is over. And, sometimes your role is so over that that's it. Like you're on to the next one, you get paid. And, if there's a premiere, you'll go to that or whatever. But, I've only, met some of the great casts on some of the films I've written and gotten emails from the cast or an Instagram message saying, "Hey, I love the words and I'm so happy it turned out." And so, but that's the extent of speaking with anyone who's usually outside of the producers and the director. So that's who the writer, at least in my experience, communicates with. It's the producers who set up the project and then the director who's trying to get his vision going. And if you're a producer writer, then maybe you'll be involved with casting and you said theatrical trained actors, theater. You look at the end of the day, a great actor for the part is a great actor for the part, whether they're theatrically trained or not. I think I speak for at least myself. If I were to direct a film, I would only choose people that I thought brought the best take to the role.
I was really intrigued with a North Pole Christmas to see Kyle Richards in a role.
Yeah, me too.
I was sitting there going like, that's interesting. I wonder how he feels about that, seeing Kyle Richards. I mean, when she was a child actress, she was
and a big reality star now.
Yeah, and I always there was part of me that was cynical about it, going like, it must be nice working for NBC, who basically is the one that's funding the Housewives show. So is this just a vehicle for her, so they can talk about it on the show, or is she in there, or is she in there doing a good job? Is she actually going in there and acting?
And she proved it, and I think she had that against her, and that's what I love so much. And when I saw the dailies, I just was like, this is awesome. Like all of my worries were immediately gone. So
she's a good actress.
She actually did something that I was my biggest fear, and wasn't from her. It was before it was even cast, was the Trish part, who's the more of the type A, everything needs to be perfect, competitive, snobby kind of housewife character. I had a feeling that if someone doesn't do this correctly, this character is going to be extremely unlikable and hard to relate to. Just, enter that territory of just, you're just obnoxious and condescending. And, Kyle Richards did something that, I hoped that they were going to pull off somehow, which was she brought something real to that character and humanized it. And she just knew how to play this woman where you're like, oh, there's some, which was in the script, but it's hard to pull off in the daily action sequences and the drama throughout, is she made this character someone who's a human being, who's that person, not the stereotype of a type A housewife character who's obsessed with Christmas and will dominate everyone in her path. And now Kyle, she's got she was in the Halloween franchise this last year, and she's in the sequel now. She's, kind of reboosted her acting career, and that was the one thing where her and Betsy Brand from Breaking Bad, they got these two girls with great chemistry, and for me, I was like, this is just the dream on this project, because she was one of the main reasons that I think the movie did as well as it did too, is that she brought this like electric housewife energy. And instead of it being like in falling under the umbrella of like the housewife show, it was like this exciting thing of like, oh my God, she's like playing a meta version of herself. And then it was like, oh my God, but it's in this endearing story. And I don't know. I'm really happy with how the whole thing goes out, and knock on wood, we're going to, hopefully, have another one. And that's just, at least for me, it was a dream come true. And she was very sweet and just, really.
Yeah, hopefully, because now it's, it always comes down to, now it's weird because, oh, here's another comment here. Let's see. Do you ever watch any Marx Brothers films or classic films like I don't know what Skidoo is, but Skidoo or Rear Window? Do you enjoy independent motion pictures that oh, I don't think he knows either. I'll ask him though, because he might know these. Talk to us about what you like independent movies.
Sure.
Right? So what do you look at? Like, you got the big budget films like Event Horizon or Third Encounter, Encounter for the Third Kind or whatnot. Do you watch a lot of independent films? Do you watch a lot of independent, like different genres of independent films? Something like we're like there's a couple of movies he's mentioned here, a couple of independent horror films.
Which ones?
The Trees Have Eyes, which is a zombie film.
Didn't see that one.
And a movie from Australia called no, I like the way you think. I like at the ISC Midnight. ISC Midnight. You see that? You see that? ISC Midnight. Okay. It's called Castic Blues.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's a weird movie, but it's an intense independent horror film from Australia. Do you watch a lot of independent horror films like Peers, so to speak?
What
do you watch?
My question, I guess now is I get so confused now. Like, what is the independent film budget these days? Like, what category are we talking? I mean,
well, if you're talking about Dustin Ferguson, it's probably about how much money you got. Well, just how much money you got in your pocket.
I got a couple nickels in my pocket right now.
You can make a Dustin Ferguson movie. So you can make a Dustin Ferguson movie right there with what you got in your pocket.
Talking about like the $15,000 feature films, or are we talking about independent films in the like the $1 million, $1 to $2 million?
Yeah. What does they say? A low budget film is considered like anywhere between $0 to $5 million is considered micro budget.
Yeah.
$5 million to $10 million is considered low budget. I mean, my mind is boggled by that. It's like,
me too.
$10 million. That's a low budget film. That's $10 million. And then you got the micro films that are $0 to $5 million.
I watched a lot of the micro films, because I myself made a no budget 52-minute black and white feature. I had watched Primer, Shane Carruth's like Sundance. That thing is like an $8,000 film I watched. Christopher Nolan's Following, Pi. Oh, I really liked Darren Aronofsky's Pi. David Lynch, Eraserhead. I love that film.
The movie.
So I see all those no budget. I went on a rampage of those films. I also have seen almost. I've tried to see every kind of very low budget hit film. Ones that kind of like I watched Creep. I liked that film. I didn't see the sequel, but I thought the first Creep with one of the Duplass brothers was really good. But I also love these horrors films that were like in that 1 to 3. There was like a great era where it was like Sinister, Scott Derrickson did. It was like the first like Conjuring and Insidious. Like there was this great era, the first Purge, before there became like 5 or 6 of these things.
It Follows.
It Follows. Oh yeah, I've seen that one a couple times. I really love that one. That girl broke out big.
I love that movie so much.
That one's weird. And there's one other film I saw that was like this $40,000 film that was all over Apple. And I remember I watched it and I thought it was going to be like the budget was going to distract me, and it like overcame it. It was called it was this weird sci-fi thing where this comet comes up and they're like clones of themselves in this house. Oh my god. Nicholas Brendan and a couple of actors were in it. It was like one of the Buffy guys. This is like a true indie. It was oh my god, it's gonna drive me crazy. It'll come to me. But yeah, I do. I definitely watch. I watch a lot of independent films, but mostly in the genre. So I don't ever watch drama independent films. It's just not my cup of tea.
Oh, you don't watch the independent drama films?
No,
That's,
I
that's
don't.
interesting. I was
That's
going to say, I mean, is there a risk that is it safe to say, we commented how you can write on any genre, and that is a very good talent to have, but it does make a little bit more common sense to, just because you can write 20 genres doesn't mean you should write 20 genres. Maybe it's like you could write it, but maybe stick to the 10 that you really like the most.
yeah.
You know,
And I've always heard it too. I've had people meetings and stuff. People tell me, you got to write dramas. They're in true stories that blah blah blah. That's what get actor Oscars. And I knew some people who basically didn't even care too much about their story, and they're like, oh, true, it's a true story in this, and they just kind of like forced a script, and they got and sold it and made it into a movie and got big agencies. But I just don't have that interest. I'm not interested in writing something that I don't want to write, on the off chance that it turns into a career, because most of the time people who go down that route of like writing something they don't care about, they basically sit with a script on their computer that is actually a waste of their time. Meaning they actually wasted 3 months of their life because they don't even like the project. They did it because they thought True Stories IP were in. And then when their phone didn't ring with $1 million offer, that script means crap to them. But for me, every spec script that I've written, the Teardrop, the horror movie, I wrote the first draft of that thing 2016, sat on my computer. No one would read it. I was told horror Western are dead and they will never get made. Don't even bother to send the script out. So I didn't. And then I gave it to one producer in September of last year, and he came back to me in 4 weeks with an offer, and they bought it and they shot it, and now it's on Tubi. So
yes, we'll have another small world moment here in a second.
yes.
I'm mentioning here on the chat. Let's see. Hey, Echo's hero, Echo Zero's hero. He is a big Dustin Ferguson fan, so he knows what I'm talking about. Let's see. Yeah, different. Yeah, Haas says we're on a different level, independent. Yeah, well, I think we're in the. I mean, that's how it is. 0 to 5 is considered micro budget.
Yeah.
So Catholic Blues and the Trees Have Eyes, they're considered micro budget films.
So they're what, like sub 100,000 or something like that?
Yeah, they're probably both around that range. Maybe Catholic Blues might have a little bit bigger, maybe about their 100. The Trees Have Eyes, probably about the same thing. I would say between 0 to 100,000. Maybe a little bit more.
0. It's good.
Yeah. Hey, Drew, how are you? Oh, here's a really good question. I don't know if it's so much. What did it inspire? Did you you mentioned about picking up writing in college. Now, was there a movie that inspired you to write, or was it something that like you said, you discovered you're naturally good at it? So, do you feel like it's a movie that led you to strike out as a writer, or do you think it was just in your genes from your parents, and you just needed to grow into it?
It was like a long obsession with movies. So I was never. The closer I got to before I decided, oh my God, I like writing. I had become obsessed with watching films going onto Reddit and like looking up the ending and this. I was always fascinated with the mythology that scripts had set up within them, and good scripts that had basically, I'd watch the same movies over and over again. So I was one of those guys. And I think it was just an amalgamation of every film that I loved mixed in with going to school, and like there was no point. I was just partying and not doing anything, and I had a little bit of, a couple of just dumb nights, and I was kind of wasting away at college, and I kind of had a little bit of a wake up call, and in that wake up call I was like, I came back one summer and I was just like, I have this weird screenplay idea, and I was like, it's not that a dynamic of an idea, but I'm gonna go write it. It's about a lifeguard who's like can't swim, and he's gonna go accidentally get hired at a pool. And I just started writing it, and that was this thing, Mouth to Mouth, which I'm still trying to get made, but it was like the first project that I ever wrote, and it's been optioned like 3 times at this point now. It was like written in 2014. But I don't know, it just kind of came in that way. But I felt as though it was my whole life, just an obsession with cinema and films, but I just didn't have a label on it. An obsession with cameras and making stuff. And I did photography in high school, and I was always doing HDR photography. I was always doing creativity within my box that I was in, but I just didn't think that it was going to be me unpacking how to make a movie. I was just like, oh, I'm making this. And all of a sudden I had made a short film, and there was no dialogue in it. And I was like, well, did I make a short film? Am I a director? I just had my friends running around, and I'm like, well, I actually told a story. And so I guess there was no formal aha moment, which is kind of odd because I've had those aha moments, but the way I got into all this was very, just a natural.
I think he just grew into it.
Yeah, I just grew into it one day, and it was as though every bit of skill I developed and knowledge I'd learned of film, all of those movies I'd watched for my whole childhood, rewatching The Others and Sixth Sense over and over. My parents coming in, you're watching Storm of the Century again, Stephen King story. I'm like, yeah, I was just one of those kids, and it was like I had the light bulb moment because I'd watched all these films and I understood storytelling. So when I started writing, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have Joe, my main character. The plot's going to start like Storm of the Century. Then it's going to turn into Sixth Sense. Then it's going to have a Jurassic Park. And it was like, it almost started with this like encyclopedia knowledge of all of these movies. And then over time, I learned how to have my own voice and basically leave behind the cliches of tropes and things that you learn from other films. But I really think that every writer who wants to be a screenwriter should be an absolute diehard film fan. If they're not, you're not going to.
Yeah, you have to really love film.
Yeah, that's what we're writing. I'm not really not writing literature. I'm just writing movies.
Right. There's a vast difference.
Yeah,
we got a couple more comments here. Let's see. Everybody's saying hi to everybody. I'll see a brother from a certain age. Do either of you watch the series The Movies That Made Us on Netflix? I have not seen that. It shows the screenwriter's importance. Or do you watch it? Or do you watch it? Do you think that it captures, if you watch it, do you think it captures the screenwriter's experience and role? So I guess it's about basically about how screenwriters define film, because it really is. I mean, a movie rises and falls on a screenwriter. It rises and falls on the story. You can be a great director. I mean, you can be a terrific director. You can be a Spielberg or Scorsese, or Liam Gavin, and if you don't have the story, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And no matter what you do, you could direct it, but it's still not. If it's not really written well, it's still not going to work.
Amen.
Let's see. It says, okay, Cat Sick Blues was a crowdfunded motion picture for less than $20,000. So that's a micro budget film. That's yeah.
I love hearing those stories of someone making a film for basically, just borrowing family, friends and money and borrowing, stealing, and then actually reaching the somewhat of an audience, it's pretty incredible, and it's pretty inspiring for
Yeah.
artists,
So
to go out and make your thing, and don't wait for the big budget. Don't wait for the bells and the whistles and the whipped cream and the walnuts and CAA to come and sign you and put Hugh Jackman in your film, man. Just do it now. Just, find a way. That's the name of the game.
you
Same with
mentioned
writers.
you mentioned about you had mouth to mouth has been optioned 3 times. Could you explain to us what optioning is?
Yeah. So an option is when a production company or producer, again, the producer can be a director too, but let's just call them producer for the sake of producers. It's when hopefully they pay you, but usually it's a paid option is what I'm talking about, is when you are paid for the script and they own the rights to it for a certain duration of time. So say they option it, they can do something like a 6-month option. It can be a 2-year option. It can be 3-year option. But the point is, you sign the rights over, they own your project for that time. And in that time, they try to make it. And if they don't make it and the time elapses, you get the rights back to your story.
Now, because
You get to keep
so I'm sorry. I think the most famous case I know about something like that was the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie that they made movie. You know about that one, right?
Vaguely. Refill me in just for the audience too.
That was the Roger Corman movie they made. They had the option for it. A gentleman had the option for the Fantastic Four, and they wanted to get it made, and so I think they had the set amount of time. I think a year, or maybe in 6 months, because they got it together and they filmed it like super fast. Now, does an option, like, as far as that goes, does a film have to be completed, or does it have to be at least 50% of the film done?
They're usually their clause or something is that if it gets into the next stage of production, like if production begins, then the option continues, but part of the option is a deal. So like it's like if we get into production, like early production, right? We get a director, this and that and things, and we move forward into starting production. You're then going to have a deal. So you're, as a writer, you're going to get paid for the script, not the option. So say an option is $2,500, okay, which many of them are. And there's a lot of writers that get unpaid. I've done some unpaid options here and there, but ultimately that money is like, it's $2,500 for us to have the rights to shop it around. And if we get a deal, then you could get $100,000, and then a bonus or, back end, whatever. If they get momentum and whatever that contract says is in terms of momentum occurs, the option doesn't expire. You reach the second thing and you negotiate on what your deal will be. So it's a good thing if you have an option and they're actually getting the movie made. The problem most of the time is people option your projects, never get them made. You get the rights back. And while your script is under option, I can't give it to anyone else.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So
yeah, has that happened to you, where you've had a movie optioned out and someone's walked up to you and said, "Yeah, I was thinking about doing that. I wanted to think about buying it from you."
I had a script optioned that I liked of a guy who basically lied to us and then just was trying to hold on to it and get us, basically my team or whatever, to make it with him and bring on board. And he was like legally got himself tied in. He said he was going to do all this stuff, optioned it. It was a crazy mess. And then, we had other offers and I couldn't get out of this stupid thing. So I always advise people, be very careful who you sign your thing over to. If someone doesn't want to pay you, a lot of times it's worth a non-exclusive option. That would be non-exclusive, meaning you're not bound to them. So they're just have the contract so that they can have your permission, saying, so you don't then later say, "Hey, I never gave you my script." It's like, this person has legally given us our script so that we can try to sell it, but someone else might be competing with us.
Now, do you do that? Do you go along? Is it better for you, in your opinion, now that you know this? Is it better for you to, as a writer, is it better to get paid, or is it better to have that non-exclusive? So it's like, hey, if you can advance it, then you go ahead and do that. But I want to keep my options open. Like if you're sitting over there and you're a small production company with a couple of movies underneath your belt, that's great. But if somebody from Universal comes over and wants to buy my script, I want to have that option without having to go to you and trying to get it back.
That's a fantastic question. My thought always, at least what I thought was, the thing about getting someone to pay money is that I like this idea that people who have skin in the game are more likely to actually get the movie done. And that the problem with non-exclusive options and unpaid options is that when people don't have their own money in the game, they're just not as motivated. And without that extra bit of motivation, of that hunger, like, hey, we have our real money and we better do something with this, you usually don't see your movies get made. It's not that common to sell your movie and to have a movie made, even when your movie is optioned. Most options don't end with movies getting made. And so I feel the best way to stack the deck is to find that person who's willing to put some money on the table. And it's less even about the money being good, and it's more about them paying money, which is why I try to always say, look, hey, I want to give you the script for free, but can you at least throw me $500, $1,000? Why? Because I want you to put some skin in the game so that you need this thing to happen. And I think that's the value of getting people to pay.
Makes sense to me, Spyder.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's like, why, if you're right. It's like getting a pet in a sense. It's like, you can go to the shelter and get a free dog or a cat, whatever. But if you go down there and spend $150, for a dog, or $1,000 for a cat, you're going to take good care of it. You're going to actually, so I get that. I agree with that.
That would be my advice. And then also, the other end, if someone's listening to this and they're in that scenario too, it's like, I see a lot of people get into the wish fulfillment fantasy thing of like, I don't want to give this thing away. There's two ends of the coin, right? There's someone who gives their thing away to their neighbor, who does nothing, and you give them a contract. Like, that's stupid, right? But there's the other end of like, if there's a production company or a producer who has real credits, and they like your script enough, they don't want to put money on, but they want to try to shop it around, and they want a legal shopping agreement, which is, in a case where it's like, I would say, hey, look, I'm not going to give this thing to you for a year for free. But what I will do is I'll give you 6 months. You know why? I can have my script off the market for 6 months.
Sure.
For no money, and I'll give it to them exclusive. I believe that that's not a bad decision. I think that the name of the game is getting, if somebody has a real track record and they're interested in your project, give them a shot. Just don't sign away your soul. That's the key thing. People sign too much away instead of saying, hey, look, here's 6 months, or here's 3 months. I've done 3-month options. Like, you got 3 months. If you got fish on your line, I'll extend it another 3 months. But don't just go and give people your script for a year long for no money from someone. God, no. Yeah, but that's where people get screwed, because the person is basically attached at the hip to your project, and then you can't do anything with it without that person getting a payday.
Now, how much do your agents come into play with this? Because you tell your agent up front that, listen, if this is, do you guys meet? Do screenwriters meet their agent and say, listen, for every script that I give you or I have on here, this is how I want to sell it. Well, unless it's a major studio. If you get a call from from Warner Brothers, you're going to get paid. They're serious about it. Yes, you're going to do whatever they want. But because like you said, track record. At the same time, if somebody comes up there and they maybe have 1 or 2 small budget films and they're coming up there saying, yeah, I want to get involved with this. I mean, your agent knows not to give it away. He knows, like, I'll give it to you for a 3-month option. You don't have to worry about that, because you already have your built-in layers already in play. So anybody that comes to your agent knows that what to expect, when they deal with you. Like, Spyder's going to want at least a 3-month deal. Well, never more.
I actually all three of my movie deals and some of the ghostwriting jobs and things I've gotten over these last 8 years, it's never been through an agent. I actually haven't had an agent in like 4 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I sold these last few things through producers that I met from some of the short films I made and one of my earlier scripts that I sold. No agents. And so I actually don't think, there are agents that are great, and then there's agents who are totally useless and don't know what they're doing, and are waiting for you to get work and bring it to them. They'll get you into bad contracts. There's it's this misconception. It's like, just because someone has a real estate license doesn't mean you should let them sell your house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with Hollywood agents. It's just people get so caught up with, oh my God, but his agency represents Orlando Bloom. So what?
Yeah.
Is your agent Orlando Bloom's agent, or is your agent, some guy who's been there for 3 weeks and was pushing a mail cart around? And it's like, so again, not to say that there aren't young hustlers, guys and girls who come out from a thing. I believe it happens all the time, but I just think, again, you got to find a really great agent, really great manager, someone who understands your art, your where you want to, your bow and arrow of your career to go to. And, if you find someone you trust in that case with what what kind of things you believe, and you can maybe sit down and converse with them saying, hey, look, what do you think about non-exclusive options or whatever? Like you and I are having a conversation right now, I'd be like, this is how I would talk to someone who's my agent and say, hey, look, like, I want to get this movie made. Like, is this a bad decision? Can you get it to more studios or production companies? And if you can't, maybe we do take this. So, they're just people, and some of them are good-hearted people. Some of them are sharks. Some of them will rip your lights out. Some of them will never pick up your phone until you've brought money to them. And so
how do you vet yourself? How do you vet yourself and protect your six? Because to me it's like, that's the first and foremost thing I want to do. If someone comes up to me and they said, yeah, I want to do an option, okay, that's great. And as soon as they step outside the door, I'm like rushing to the internet to see exactly who this guy is and what has he done. And then I'm going to call my friends around my network and like, have you heard of Joe Smith? I mean, what have you heard? What have you heard? I would just never do a deal face to face.
But these are great strategies, and the key thing is, don't say yes. Never say yes in a meeting. Don't say yes to stuff. Go home and think about it.
Yeah.
That I've had like 4 managers over the course of my career, and a couple of them I just said yes because I was like, I got to have a manager good enough, right? End of the day, I've actually fired most of my people just from them not doing anything for me, where I was like, you know what do I need this on my IMDb Pro for? Nobody gives a shit. I'm not getting work. I'm not getting money. They're giving my scripts to low-level executives who don't make calls, who don't have the stones to pitch it up to their boss. What are we doing here?
Right.
And that's where a lot of people, they don't. The key thing I see with why writers are unfortunately have such this cliche, miserable breed to them. There's so much desperation and anger, and even on Twitter, as much as I love it, and I put out a lot of stuff, I try not to look, because there's a lot of people just tearing each other apart, and I query, it's like, hey, here's the thing. You have to have standards for yourself as a human being and not do whatever it takes to get in as a writer. If somebody slaps you in the face metaphorically and doesn't give you respect, you sit with a manager and they're at CAA and they're rude to you, they make you feel uncomfortable. There's a crazy little thing called saying no.
Yeah.
And you can say no even if you have no other options, and you're going to go back and you're going to go deliver Uber Eats and do food, which is I've done, and I've said no, and I've fired people while I was delivering food and said, you know what? I'd rather have my decency and my respect and wait for someone who's going to understand me and sell me and give me a legacy. And, instead of someone who's making me uncomfortable, making me dance for them, trying to put me into some, hey, you got to go down TV staff writing and be assistants. I'm like, you know what? I didn't sign up for this to feel like, principal is schooling me, So I think that having standards is so important.
Yeah.
And just because you want that success, and I understand, man, I understand how everyone wants that. I want it to, these things. Don't let that turn into desperation, where you start saying yes and putting yourself in scenarios that you don't believe in. It's like getting married to someone that you don't have anything in common with, you don't love, you have no feelings for, because you turn 30 and it's time to get married. You just don't do those things. You know what I mean? And it's the same with writers. It's like, but I need to have an agent. It's like, you need to have an agent who understands you, who likes your writing. Otherwise, it's nothing. It's just not that. It isn't this esoteric thing that people believe it is, which is why I told everyone I sold my last 2 movies with no agent. I got the paperwork, I signed the contracts, I looked them over. It's like, this is how things are done. Producers don't care.
It's really, and the thing is, like, I can almost see, too, and because you're right. I mean, you want to get movies made. I mean, you want to build that legacy, and you want to build that body of work. Because right now, what's important is actually having movies underneath your belt. If someone comes up there and says, here's somebody who's never sold anything, it's not a good look. When you've already sold 3 of your projects.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with that guy because that guy has something on the ball because he's selling.
And they don't care that I don't have an agent, even though, but this person has an agent and they're at rep at this place. But it's like, you have to understand that producers and studios, if they somehow get their hands on a piece of material they like, they don't give a shit what the writer, who's representing the writer, they want that project. You know what I mean? It's in fact, many producers, you ask them, they like writers who don't have agents. Why? Because they don't have to deal with some jackass person who's going back and forth, and they can go right to the source and tell them what the offer is and no leverage. And you're like, hey, good with me. And so,
sometimes they don't like having managers either, or agents either, because then they just go ahead and they feel like they can impose their will a little bit too. The writer sitting on the back heels because they're trying to sell it now. Because sometimes a manager, like you mentioned, CAA. I worked with CAA before, and that's to me, my experience. They always looked out for their people.
That's great.
I worked on the music side, so not the writing side, but CAA is like one of those agencies like. Yeah, you don't go in there and really twist with, pull their tail with their client. They're gonna, you do that, they're gonna snap it back at you.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But I definitely, that's good to have someone who's looking out for your best interest.
For sure.
And,
that's my thing is I have nothing respect for agents when they show me respect. And again, it's just they're human beings. There's companies and corporations I get along with, and there's some that you don't. And there's, at the end of the day, sometimes your interests align with people and sometimes they don't. And the most important thing is that you write stories you care about, and you enter into business relationships that you feel good and comfortable in.
And it builds your confidence. Because I see this if you guys really want to, I'm going to put it in the description box. But you guys, everybody in the chat, you really wanted to follow Spyder's Instagram.
Yeah,
it's a revelation. It really is. It's so cool because you're so positive about your own stuff and your own craft, but you always lift up others. And like I said before, beginning our interview, that's really cool to see. You really want everybody to succeed. And like I said, I met 99.9 of the people I've been talking with they're super nice people.
Yeah.
But it's just. But I know how Hollywood is too, and I've heard enough stories about that as well. It's a dog eat dog world, like I mentioned. Yeah. And I think it's just like so cool that you do support everybody and you do get people out there to write and keep writing and don't give up and keep going. Let's talk a little bit about Teardrop because that's your new movie that's out right now on Tubi. So let's talk a little bit about Teardrop because I've watched. It's a Small World too. Because I happen to know your editor.
It blows me away, but it also doesn't. I mean, I love that. It's so funny because I've never met him, but I got to watch the film for the first time on the night of the premiere, and I was really nervous just because I wrote the script, didn't know, how much, I was kind of in the dark a little bit. I knew the director loved it, the producers loved it, and the cast and everything, but so I hadn't heard from anyone in 5 months, and then the premiere came, and the editor was like, really, I was like just floored by his ability and skill, and also his way of hiding his great edit too. Just not that other style of editing I see a lot of films do, where they're like, look at how elaborate the edit is. It's like it just worked. It
Yeah.
just flowed and it took you through the story, and all of a sudden. But I love the way he edited the ending sequence. I mean, if I ever talk to him, I've watched the ending sequence a bunch because I just thought that he edited this sequence just awesome, and it was a very 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 great feeling to see all the creative ends of the project really work in sync together, from the director to the producers, editors, cast. My favorite film that I've ever written, the way it turned out. So it was
yes. It's his name is Sean Kane, and I've discovered something too that I've noticed. I've noticed that editors and who are directors, they get it. When you have an editor like Sean's he's put out several films of his own. And in fact, he got me into reviewing films. So he got me into reviewing. So, and I've been friends with him for 5-6 years now, if not longer. And when I told him I was going to be talking to you, because I said, yeah, I'm going to be doing, he's got this new movie out called Teardrop, and he goes, oh yeah, I edited that, and I'm like, I got super excited because I'm like, well, at least I know it's going to be a good movie. It's going to be edited great.
I hope, it's so crazy because you really, as a writer, I don't have any control, but I really, when I see a film come out the way it does, you just hope that another one of my future scripts ends up in post-production and he's editing again. That's kind of that thing too, that I like familiarity with, like, when a team works creatively, I like to try to keep that team, but also as a writer, it's not in my hands. So, it's I do hope he can edit another one of my films, because I really liked what he did.
Well, he'll be watching this later on, I'm sure, because I'm going to send it to him. So I know he'll appreciate that. Sean King, he's one of the best people I've met.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. Everyone on that project, at least in my experience, was just, it was my first time having one of my original screenplays that was written on spec to get made. And that was just the greatest feeling, because it was just something that just came from my mind. There was no assignment. There was no like developing. It was just a script that I had written. And it was, a bit of, for me, proving myself to myself, because for the longest time I said, I feel like I'm writing these kick-ass scripts that are not just the holiday ones, but nobody's paying me any attention. I'm getting general meetings and no one's making my stuff and giving me offers. And, you question stuff sometimes, a little doubt creeps in. And so this was one of those landmine moments for me, not just to sell it, but to see how it turned out, and to see that some of these ideas that I wrote on the page, that the way that the dialogue would linger on with the teenagers and some of the sexual stuff and the fights and the stuff. And I had this vision of it on the page lingering on and being a little bit longer than a more streamlined film usually does, And it was like everyone on the film, from the director, the editor, everyone was like, they saw that in the script too, and they let the scenes breathe, which I just loved.
Now, did you get to go on set for that? You did or did not?
I didn't. I was going to go to one day, and there was like some rainstorm thing, and it was up north, and I didn't get a chance to see the set. But
what was your how did your parents react? Did you take them to the premiere? And what was their reaction to the film afterwards?
We actually all watched it together at my folks live nearby me in Los Angeles, but we all watched it at the house together, and I think they were, they really loved it. My brothers especially too. I think it was like this very surreal thing too, because it was like they knew about the project from like 5 years ago, you know what I mean? And so they'd kind of read some old draft, it's just like it's a very strange experience to watch someone's film that they wrote, and to see it, because there's a lot of like weird things that are referenced And so a lot of times I feel that people who know me don't get the full joy out of the scripts that get turned into movies, because they get distracted by dialogue of like, oh my god, like that's the street we live on, and oh my god, that's blah blah's name is, you know, thing, and your friend says that, and that was the food you used to eat. You know what I mean? Like I put a lot of myself hidden into these fictitious characters that are nothing like me, but a lot of people who know me, my parents included, they get so all of a sudden they're laughing about this thing that's personal, not really related to the story. You know what I mean? Because like there's this monologue, and all of a sudden the monologue is mentioned my kindergarten teacher, who's like was my actual kindergarten teacher, and they, you know what I mean? It's just it's that kind of stuff distracts people. Same with my friends too when they watch my films.
Now, what did you now walk us through this, because I want, this is something that always fascinates me. Thank you so much, Chadwick. I appreciate it. Yeah, Teardrop is on Tubi, folks. If you get a chance, please check it out. It's awesome. I wish Tubi. There's something I wish Tubi would do. You know, because they put out so many original films on there. I really wish that they would have like after you watch it, like how Amazon has it. You know, you could leave a review or whatnot. I really wish they would have that after you complete the movie. You have to watch the movie first, all the way through, and then afterwards, then it takes you to a page and you could write a review on it. I really would like that.
That's a good idea. If I you know, that's I no, these are the kind of good ideas I also think that make critics and people more genuine too, because they have to watch the stuff, you know.
Yeah, it, you know, Amazon Prime, when they first started, you know, that was one of the things they did to protect filmmakers too, and that was they said you would have to watch.
Yeah, didn't they?
Huh?
Didn't they just have some crazy backfire where like people were like trolling the Rings of Power show and like review bombing it before they were even seeing it and stuff? Like,
yeah, they're all you know, they're just assholes. I mean, you know, you know, the funny thing is that they're sitting there leaving all that shit on the website, and dimes to a dozen donuts, they've never even read the fucking books.
Yeah, I like that. Well, yeah, they've never read the books, and
they never read the books. It's like, wow, you guys have never read the books. You could tell they haven't, because they're sitting there going, well, there's too many girls in there. It's like,
yeah, what
I not read the book. If you not read the book, you know, it's like, if you did, then you would know that there's two people in the whole book that the ring wasn't affected, and one of them was a woman.
Yeah,
no, you know, it's like, just sit down somewhere, you know, relax.
Well, critics are in that bind too, because it's this thing where it's like, you know, I just feel the internet is this very complicated machine, and where people, you know, bad actors, really, like bad actors, I don't mean like Hollywood, like creative actors, I mean just bad, you know, people in different spaces really mess up good stuff, you know, things like that, where it's like, you know, critic scores, they're supposed to be basically an accurate portrayal of what most of the critics thought, of what most of the people thought, you know. So it's amazing that things can be trolled like that, and actually, you know, I often feel that it's hard to know based on review scores if they're accurate to films anymore, because
I don't even look at it, honestly.
Yeah.
There's so many movies on the movie database page that are, you know, 2.2 or 2.9, and then you watch them and they're fantastic movies.
Yeah,
you know?
It's happened to me now too, where I'm on the same page as you, and I was like, man, once upon a time this tomato score meant something, and now it's like I see 97%. I'm like, I saw that movie. That movie is not a 97%. You know, like once upon a time, The Godfather and you know, Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby and these films were like in the 90s, and like, or, you know, The Green Mile. It's like, and then it's like you've got these films that I won't name because I won't name, but like that have 99%. I'm like, that's
right.
That is, come on, like, let's call a film what it is. A good film, you don't give a 10 to a good film. You give, you know, 7 and 8, whatever. You save the 10 for the masterful films. You gotta have some, you know what I mean? And that's where the chilling stuff.
As a writer, I mean, when you see that, I mean, you know, so you have a healthy outlook, for one thing. You've already looked at it and go like, you know, okay, I can't take it seriously. It's either both ways. It's like, If you walk up there and you see someone put a 10 up there, you're going to go up there and say, that's very kind of them to do that.
Yeah.
But you know, though, that, I like this movie. I give a really solid effort. I like what they did with it and everything else, considering the budget and cast. It's a solid 7, solid 8. You always want room to improve.
Sure.
You always want, okay, but at the same time, it's like, someone comes up there and, well, I gave your movie a 1. Well, obviously you didn't watch it because, the movie's well made. It's well acted. It's well edited. I don't know, what you were thinking about. I don't think, I mean, there's some movies like, Dustin Ferguson definitely gets a 1 or more or less. I'm not one of those people that goes like, yeah, but he made a movie. I'm not one of those that says, yeah, I'll give credit when credit is due. It's like,
I'm the same way as you are. It's like, what to me, a 1 has to warrant a 1. And also it's like, I try to, at least when I review films, even when I was doing some on IMDb and things, like, I also try to keep in track of the budget. Like, I don't expect a $75,000 film to be able to do the same thing as this $15 million thriller. And so you have to have some leeway about what you're watching and what they had the resources. And, we're in a little bit of this land of uber harsh and then uber kissing ass. It's like people are on too much of those either sides. It's like, I'm giving something a 1 or I'm giving something a 10 and nothing in between. And like, oh, I hate this person's movie. I don't like this guy. Or, I'll somehow get DMs from some people sometimes who are just like, blah, 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 I hate you. And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like,
really? Man, wow. Are you serious? Because they didn't like it one of your movies.
I'm so serious. I'll get, and I'll see, I don't look at my own reviews anymore, but I've seen people who I know went on and like basically gave me a review or, just to stick it to me. And I'm just like, there is just something about the nature of the internet that I think brings out,
the worst. It does bring out the worst in people.
And people think that there's certain people like that I'm putting out this stuff about writing this optimism. And it's like, he has an angle and it's like, no, I don't have an angle.
Oh, you don't have an angle.
I don't need to be on here. I really don't. I sometimes fantasize about throwing all my social media away into the ocean and never being.
I hope you don't do that though.
Yeah,
I don't, because I think what you do is,
yeah,
I really don't, because I think what you do is important.
Well,
and I do.
But that's why I don't do I try to just put as much optimism stuff, because I'm like, if I'm going to be on here, at least let me try my best to blindly put stuff out there that like somewhat makes the space a better place, that makes writers a happier type of people, that makes writers say, I'm going to choose hope and optimism over, despair and doubt and anger and jealousy and envy. Those are emotions that cripple you and they make life not worth living. And I think that people, have to work. Sometimes it takes hard work to be optimistic, but you know what? It's the better choice. Might be easier to live in those angry emotions, but it takes you down a path you don't want to go. I'm not a person, who doesn't get setbacks and kicked down and takes rejections and things don't go my way a lot of times. But I always ask myself, I've got 2 options. I can choose to see this as an obstacle and just a roadblock and a pothole and say, hey, I'm the hero of my own story. I'm going to find a way to do this. Or I can say, poor me. Why did I peak out? What did I do to end up on this path? And you have that choice every single time something comes your way. You can choose to see it as an obstacle, or you can choose to say, I'm cursed. Why do these other people online have things so much easier than I do? And
yeah, I see that a lot. I see that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to do this before we let you go, but I definitely want to give the chat here. I definitely want to give them an opportunity to ask some questions.
Cool.
I'm sure there's been. I'm going to go up there and see if there's any other people who have left questions, so I can go ahead and feed them your way. Our friend Keith is on here. I told him the Teardrops on Tubi. Joshua imploded. I don't know what happened to Joshua. Hi Max, how are you, sir? Yes, I agree. Our Keith says he's got a great and creative way of looking at and creating film. Unique guy. Yes, you are. Keith is very perceptive.
Thank you.
Let's see. Let's see. I told Keith that Teardrop is good. He'd love it. He will. Anybody will. Let's see. Is there any questions? Does anybody have any questions before we let Spyder go? What are you working on right now?
Let's see here. So I've got that mouth-to-mouth script I was telling you. That one's been re-optioned, so I'm hoping this thing gets going. I've been wanting to get this thing made for so long. It's been so close. And then I just finished 2 Christmas movies that are under option as well, so I don't own those anymore, and waiting to hear if something happens. And then
I'm sure both of those will go.
yeah,
they're just
they're good. I've
yeah.
really got my voice down in that space, and then I'm really trying to follow up Teardrop. I wrote 2 horror scripts, 2 features, in a similar budget realm, around the million range, 1 to 2. Teardrop was the million range, and they're really special. Kind of, one of them is like mystery gothic thriller that takes place in this like haunted estate, and then another one is like this forest horror film. And so these are the 2 films. I'm trying to make my way into this horror realm and keep it going, because it's, I feel that I have more to say in that space, and I feel that I don't know, I feel drawn to write those stories and to find a way to keep moving in that direction. And I don't know, I feel that something close is going to happen with one of these scripts where I'm going to really land on lightning, And
sure.
I loved how Teardrop turned out, and Stephen R. Monroe, he made the film that I wrote.
It's a beautiful film. It really is. It's photographed well. The acting is, the acting's solid. The atmosphere is there. I love the I mentioned, because I don't want to ruin anything, but I mentioned that people like Trick or Treat. There's something there's something in Teardrop that they'll really like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. So I mean, I think they really like it. I think it's I do. One question for you, though. The people here in the chat, much like myself, we are physical media people. We love to have our movies in our hands. Right. Will Teardrop be distributed by anybody that will we be able to go and buy it, or is that just be a streaming exclusive?
That is you brought up something that I've never even thought of, but it's so it should be done. I don't think they will, and it's the same with the Housewives movies for Peacock, while they're streaming originals, like you said, there's no hard copy, and there is something sad about that, and there's something missing in that way of just making it something permanent on a DVD with a nice box with the one sheet on the front. I'll definitely speak to them and stuff on that, but that is something that I myself want a copy like that. It's a weird thing. I don't even have any posters of it, because they didn't do posters, because writers don't get one sheets really much anymore unless it's a theatrical film.
Directors don't even get copies of their own movies. You know how many directors, Spyder, I've talked to, and I'll talk to them about their own movie, and I'll sit there and say, yeah, I reviewed the movie, or I watched the movie, or and they'll sit there and say, I got a Blu-ray copy. Say I got a Blu-ray copy, and I go, you got a Blu-ray copy? Yeah. I didn't get a Blu-ray copy. I'm like, you didn't? I didn't get a DVD copy. And it's like, oh my, it makes me feel, like that small. Like, how is it that you're the director of this damn movie, or the star of this movie, and you didn't get any copies of the movie? That's just absolutely bonkers.
My folks saw a shift. They would give posters every time, and then all of a sudden one year the posters stopped coming, the DVDs stopped coming, and then I've had 3 movies made, all of over $1 million budgets. Peacock one was like 3 to 5, and never had a poster. I only have one poster of a Mother's Day Hallmark movie that I was a story by, because it was still in the era where Hallmark was one of the rare companies that would actually print up one sheet posters for the writers. And it's just this weird era that's kind of died a little bit, of and again, a lot of people like, as much as I want to ask and get those posters, I'd rather just save that phone call for me trying to get my next movie going, And so
Right.
a lot of people you're like, God, while I'd like those posters, you know what I'd like more? To be in production on my next film. So so you just keep not asking, and it's
right. Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
company.
you just hope
That'll be something I'll do.
you hope at least someone would burn you off a copy of the movie. You would hope they'd at least do that.
They have video now. They have you want to copy your film? Someone's ripped it online. Onto watch 123watchme.com or something like that.
Right. Listen, Spyder, I want to thank you very much for coming out and hanging out with us. I thoroughly enjoyed this interview so much. I've been looking forward to this ever since I asked you. I thank you for for agreeing to do it. A fantastic guest, one of the best. I totally understand. I totally understand why Mike reached out to you.
Yeah, he had a great time on there too.
Yeah, he's a terrific guy. We do a show together now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
ISC show. I'm a ISC nut. I love ISC movies. ISC Midnight. I'm a fanatic, and so he's along with me. So we
right?
do.
Yeah.
Huh?
I see IFC.
Yeah, International Film Company. They put it to Babadook.
Yeah, they did this one independent film they bought, which I had a friend star in, or he's one of the roles in. It was called Pledge, a horror film.
Yeah, I had that.
My buddy Philip Andre Batello, he's one of the guys, one of the main three guys. But yeah, I went and saw it in theaters, and then I remember when they got picked up by IFC and stuff. But yeah, they do great stuff. They keep their stuff dark and gritty, and I love that, man. I like when
I'm always on the hunt. It's hard for me to find movies like that, so I'm always looking for them. Listen, stay right where you're at. I'm going to tell my chat. Thank you so much for coming out. Hi, Warstrong. How are you? It's the Echo saying that filmmakers should be given a few copies of the movies and some of the posters and whatnot that got made for the movies for free. I totally agree with you, Echo. You and I are alike. I never understand why people who are involved in the movie don't get a copy, and that includes the crew. That includes the crew. Yeah. I don't understand why, like that's not built in the budget. So like at the end of the movie where they get the T-shirt or whatever, they get a copy of the movie and for themselves because they worked on it. I don't understand that myself. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night with our good friend Fluff from All That Fluff and Stuff. She'll be here at 8 o'clock. And then on Thursday, we have a double header. We'll be talking to Max Watsa at 6 p.m. And we'll be talking to actress and filmmaker Tristan Risk will be here with us at 9 p.m. on Thursday. Tristan's amazing. Tristan, yeah.
I recognize that name.
She did a movie called American Mary a little while ago, and she's done some other. She's done some great horror films, independents, of course, and she's just super creative. Holy shit, she's just amazing. She's actually learning how to sword swallow, which I'm hoping that she'll actually do on the interview.
Oh, she actually, that's insane.
Yeah, I'm hoping that she's able to do that. That would be bonkers.
Be a great way to start or close the interview.
Yeah, or to open it, or yeah, come on in, sit in, and next thing you know, it's like this is Miss Tristan Risk, and she comes in and swallows the sword. I'd be like, hell yeah. Stay right where you at for a minute, and I'm gonna say goodnight to everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting us, and be good to each other. Peace.